In the depths of a nightmare he has blurred memory but knows this is important as he awakens. His body is soaked in sweat. Marie, warily observing his high temperature, rushes to comfort him. Although time has passed, Jason's battle with amines persists. His past flickers back to him and disjointed flashbacks, their meaning elusive. Marie, in an attempt to ease his distress, suggests it may have been just a dream. However, Jason believes the images that torment him are real remnants of a past mission. In response, Marie encourages him to write it down, as he has done with other fragmented memories, a process they've used over the years to piece together his shattered past. In Berlin, a CIA team led by Deputy Director Pamela Landy is engaged in a covert operation, offering $3 million to a Russian informant for the Nevsky Files' vital documents regarding the theft of $20 million 7 years ago. Simultaneously, Krill, a Russian operative, infiltrates the building, placing explosives strategically throughout. When the explosives detonate, chaos ensues and Krill seizes the opportunity, killing the men and making off with both the files and the money. Panic overtakes Pamela and her team as they scramble to respond. Later, Kirill meets with Yuri, a wealthy Russian oligarch who had hired him for this operation. Satisfied with the success of this mission, Yuri assigns Kirill another target, Jason Bourne. Jason is strolling through the streets of India when he spots Kirill parking his car and entering a store. Recognizing the threat, Jason rushes back to his vehicle and hurries to find Marie, who's at the beach. He quickly gets Marie into the Jeep, telling her that their cover is blown. Kirill spots them and swiftly pursues in his car. Jason tells Marie that he had noticed the same man twice and something about him felt off. As Kirill closes in, Jason instructs Marie to take over driving. He then pulls out his gun and navigates through the congested streets and tied allies. They momentarily lose by crossing a field, but the man pursues on foot, armed with his rifle. Jason and Marie make it back onto the road. He insists that she return to their house while he deals with the threat, but Marie pleads for him to stop fighting. At that moment, Kirill positions himself on the road, aiming and firing a fatal shot at Marie. The sudden impact sends the Jeep flying into the water. In the chaos, Jason desperately pulls Marie from the vehicle, only to find that she's already dead. He can only watch as her lifeless body drifts away from the bridge. Carol watches the water but doesn't see Jason resurface. Believing his mission to be successful, he leaves. Meanwhile, in Berlin, the CIA is investigating the scene of the failed transaction. They manage to lift fingerprints from the location but encounter a treadstone block when running the prints through their database. In India, Jason stares blankly as the Jeep is hauled from the river. He burns all of Marie's photographs and documents, then gathers their cash and firearms from their house, preparing for bloody revenge. In another development, CIA Deputy Director Pamela Landy meets with Director Marshall. She shares that they discovered fingerprints at the crime scene and requests access to Treadstone's files, which Marshall grants. She pulls up Bourne's photograph and digs deeper into the Treadstone program, where she uncovers a connection to Section Chief Ward Abbott. During a meeting with Abbott, he initially underestimates her until she discloses that the director has granted her full access. Abbott then explains that Treadstone was a lethal operation that was decommissioned 2 years prior. Despite his initial disbelief, he is taken aback when Pamela informs him that Jason was implicated in a murder the previous week back in Moscow. Carol tells Yuri that the job is done. He is given his money and makes his way. Jason, on the other hand, arrives at an airport in Germany, but his passport triggers an alert in the CIA system, leading security to take him aside for questioning. Concurrently, Pamela Landy is briefing the CIA heads about the failed operation linking Jason Bourne to the killings. She also shares her suspicion that Conklin was involved in shady operations, but mistakenly believes that Jason and Conklin were collaborating and that Jason murdered the agents to conceal evidence. They soon learn that Jason's passport has pinged their system, prompting them to mobilize their resources to apprehend him. A U.S. official interrogates Jason, asking why he's in Germany, but Jason remains silent. The official receives a call from a CIA agent warning him about Jason's danger here, but before he can react, Jason springs into action, subduing the guards. He wiretaps the official's phone and steals a car. When the CIA reach out to the official, who's just regaining consciousness, Jason intercepts the call. He overhears them discussing their suspicions about him and learns that Pamela will be heading to Germany. Jason makes his way to Munich, during which he experiences a flashback of a mission involving Conklin. Concurrently, Pamela and Ward meet with Nikki, a former technician for Treadstone, in order to learn more about Jason. Upon reaching Munich, Jason finds Jarda, a former Treadstone agent, holding him at gunpoint. He forces Jarda to bind his own hands. Jason inquires about Conklin and Treadstone, learning that the operation was terminated following Conklin's death. He believes that the CIA is pursuing him and demands answers, but Jarda is clueless about his current predicament. The phone rings, momentarily distracting Jason, which Jarda uses as an opportunity to attack. They wrestle, with Jarda pulling a knife. However, Jason fends him off and uses his magazine as an impromptu weapon. Showcasing his combat expertise, although Jarda briefly gains the upper hand, Jason eventually overcomes him using a cord to finish him off. Beware that CIA agents are approaching. Jason opens a gas line and swiftly exits the premises just before the house detonates. He then heads to Berlin, where he discovers Pamela's hotel address after finding out her room number and observing her departure from the hotel with her bodyguards. Jason tails them in a cab to pinpoint the location of her office from the roof of a building opposite to Pamela's office. Jason sets up a sniper rifle, obtaining a clear view into her workspace. He phones her, demanding to know why the CIA is pursuing him. Pamela informs him of the Berlin incident, insisting he killed 2 people. However, Jason, reflecting on his flashbacks, believes they're mistakenly attributing a past mission to him. Upon seeing Nikki in the office, Jason tells Pamela he intends to surrender. He requests a discreet meeting with Nikki. When Pamela hesitates, Jason reveals he can see Nikki standing next to her, which visibly shocks the team. Ward vehemently argues against the meeting, citing Bourne's dangerous nature, but Pamela is determined to proceed. Nikki is positioned at the designated location. Surrounded by snipers and guards, she receives a call instructing her to board a passing tram, unbeknownst to her that Jason is discreetly watching over her. A protest happening nearby hinders the CIA's visibility as they send in their agents to secure Nikki. Jason seizes the opportunity to intercept her and evade capture. He takes Nikki to the underground train station, pressing her for answers about Pamela's alleged attempt to kill him. Nikki informs him about the Berlin incident, but Jason insists he was not in Berlin at that time. He begins to suspect that the CIA might have had a hand in Marie's death. While the CIA team eavesdrops, Jason gleans more information about the files Pamela sought to acquire. These files seem to be linked to the Berlin mission that haunts his memories. However, Nikki informs him that he has never undertaken any assignments in Berlin. Back at the Berlin office, Ward continues to advocate for Jason's elimination. While Pamela insists on seeking answers rather than a body, Jason heads to a cafe where he researches the name Nevsky and discovers that he was a Russian politician found dead in a hotel room. He notes the hotel's name as well. Meanwhile, Conklin's former assistant identifies inconsistencies in the reports of suggesting Bourne's involvement in the agent's death. He presents his theory to Ward, who abruptly kills him before he can report his findings to Pamela. Next, Bourne visits the hotel where the killing took place, triggering more memories of his mission. He breaches the room, which alerts the hotel staff. The police and the CIA swiftly react, trying to capture him. Inside the room, Jason experiences a rush of recollections. He had murdered Nevsky on Conklin's orders, and when Nevsky's wife arrived, he shot her and staged the entire scene. As the police close in on his floor, Jason manages to exit the building, fleeing down a fire escape just as Pamela and her team reach the hotel. 2 officers notice him and give chase, following Jason through the streets and into a train station. He evades them by running across the tracks and leaping onto a passing barge. The police demand a boat to stop, but as it passes under a bridge, he cleverly hides there before returning to the train, ultimately making a successful escape. Upon returning to his hotel, Ward contacts Yuri, informing him that they need to eliminate Bourne as Pamela is closing in on their operation. As he's speaking, Jason suddenly materializes behind him, having overheard everything. Ward confesses that he stole the money, ordered Kirill to retrieve the files, and framed Bourne before orchestrating a hit on him. Jason is furious, not just about being framed but also because Marie was killed when he had explicitly told them to leave him alone. Ward, however, doesn't fear death and goads Jason to kill him, but Jason decides against it, stating that Marie wouldn't have wanted him to do so. As Pamela heads towards room to confront him about her suspicions, he takes a lethal dose of poison. He holds her at gunpoint as she enters, and when she questions him about Danny's death, he reveals that Danny was merely collateral damage. Then Ward decides he's had enough and ends it. Jason collects his documents and boards a train bound for Moscow. Back at the office, Pamela discovers a recording of the conversation between Ward and Yuri. When her team informs her that Jason was sighted boarding a train to Moscow, she promptly alerts the Russian police. Upon arriving in Moscow, Jason takes a taxi to the address of Nevsky's daughter, only to find out that she has moved. The cab driver receives a call from a colleague alerting him that the police are tracking Jason. Realizing the situation, Jason swiftly makes an escape on foot. Kirill, who had received news of Jason's arrival, locates him and shoots him in the shoulder. However, before Kirill can do anything else, the police apprehend him and he reveals his identity as a Russian federal agent. Wounded, Jason retreats into a nearby store where he secures a bottle of vodka and attempts to get a cab. When police officers arrive to apprehend him, Jason easily subdues them and commandeers the cab. Hyrule, relentless in his pursuit, notices Jason's escape and steals a jeep to continue the chase. Despite the relentless pursuit from both the police and Kirill, Jason manages to maintain an advantage as federal agents join the chase. Hyrule sideswipes Jason's cab, but Jason recovers and continues to speed ahead. He ventures into a busy highway where his cab sustains significant damage but continues to function in a tunnel. Carilla shoot Jason and run him off the road, but Jason counters by shooting out one of his tires. He pins Carol's Jeep with his cab and drives him directly into a divider. Jason emerges from the wreckage holding a gun at Carol but realizes that he is mortally wounded, choosing not to end his life. Jason leaves him be. Subsequently, Yuri and his men are apprehended with Pamela supervising the arrest from a distance. Jason meanwhile makes his way to the apartment of Nevsky's daughter. His sudden appearance startles her, but he assures her he means no harm. He confesses that he was responsible for her parents' death, a memory that he can't forget. Apologizing sincerely, he leaves the shaken young woman alone. Later in New York City, Bourne contacts Landy over the phone. She expresses her gratitude for the revealing tape he had left her. In return, she shares with him his original identity, David Webb, along with his birth date and place. She requests him to meet her in person, but Jason, observing her from a distance, suggests she looks weary and should rest. As the conversation ends, he seamlessly blends into the city crowd, appearing from sight. And there you have it, folks. If you enjoyed the journey we took in this film, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more exciting content. Take a moment to dive into the excellence of the original film. Trust me, it's worth every second. Thank you for being part of today's adventure. Your support means the world to me. Remember to turn on notifications so you never miss a future upload. I can't wait to see you all again in the next video. Until then, stay awesome, and goodbye.